It's Victory Monday here on Ravens Rundown, and I could not be happier. Happy Monday to you all. Welcome into Ravens Rundown. I'm your host, Joey Petersen, and today we're going over my 5 takeaways from this 41-38 absolute barn burner that we all watched yesterday. I got a lot to talk about, so we're not going to waste any more time. Let's get into it, but before we get into any of my actual takeaways, I need to shout you guys all out because yesterday we had 54,751 views on our watch party. I was live for almost 5 hours by the time overtime and post-game was finished. It was so much fun. We currently are sitting at 19,830 subs, only 170 away from getting to 20K. It's a big milestone. I can't get there without you guys, so if you're not already, subscribe to the channel. It's the best place to be on YouTube. If you're a Ravens fan, I can promise you that. I want you to do something simple for me. Just like the video if you think this guy's the best quarterback in the NFL. Just go ahead and like it for me because this is what I'm starting with. And what impressed me so much is that he proved yesterday, just like he's done all his whole career, is that this Ravens team can win in multiple ways. And that's my first takeaway. Is this team can win like the last 2 weeks and they can run it for 300 yards, 500 yards a game it seems like, or they can beat you passing the football. And Cincinnati's game plan going into this one, it was obvious, right? They said, okay, we're going to sell out to stop the run. We're not going to let them beat us with Derrick Henry or with Lamar Jackson running the football. We're going to make Lamar beat us with his arm. And guess what he did? He beat you with his arm. So let's look at this. Team rushing as a whole for these first 5 weeks, because this goes to show exactly what Cincinnati's game plan was. Opening night, 185 yards on the ground, 5.8 yards per carry. Then 151 yards, 5.6 yards. 274 yards, 6.1 yards per carry. 271 yards with 8 yards per carry. And then yesterday in regulation, this was before overtime, but against Cincinnati, 107 yards and 3.7 yards per carry. So then you're trailing in the fourth quarter. You're down. You can't just run the football. You haven't been able to do that all game. You got to put it on your quarterback's shoulders. And in the second half, he was phenomenal. 17 for 24, 235 yards, 3 touchdowns. And I said at halftime of this one, I said, okay, he needs to have a better second half because his first half wasn't that great. And boy, did he come out and put on a show. And what impresses me most is it wasn't just the dinks and dunks, It wasn't all yards after the catch. He went 10 for 15 for 174 yards and a touchdown on intermediate passes. That's any pass from 10 to 19 yards. Look at that pass chart. That looks nothing like these past 2 games. And because these past 2 games, they haven't asked him to do that. Right? They haven't asked him to throw the ball 42 times. But they did yesterday, and he did it phenomenally. Look at how many passes are past that 10-yard mark, right? Only 5 of his 26 completions behind the line of scrimmage. Lamar Jackson was lethal when he had the football in his hand, when he was dicing up the defense. And he is the reason that we won that game. And there's no doubt about it. He's my MVP, okay? Pretty obvious. I want to hear who your MVP is from yesterday's win against the Bengals. You're about to get hit with a YouTube ad break, so to make that time go by faster, go down to the comment section. This will be the pinned comment, and go ahead and reply for me. Who is the MVP against Cincinnati? Number 2. Guys, I don't know if you guys felt the same way, but it felt good to be on the other side. Look at this. Okay, how many times have we seen this picture on Twitter after a loss? And someone circles the score, someone circles the time left, and it ends up that Baltimore blew the game, right? Happened against Las Vegas. It's happened a lot this year, but you were on the opposite side of it yesterday, and it was fantastic. And the scoring by quarter looked a lot different than it had so far, right? You'd been outscored through the first 3 weeks of the season, so through the Cowboys game, by minus 22 in that fourth quarter. And yesterday, you were a plus 3. You were a plus 3. You went down into halftime, only down 3. Third quarter was a wash. And, man, that fourth quarter was just back and forth, punches after punches, and you're the one that came out on top. And I love seeing it. And what I love most is that you got a lot of practice being down in the fourth quarter. Now, I know that Lamar has had that kind of repetition a lot in his career, right? He's been playing football for a long time. But it's still valuable to get these reps when your team's down, when you're trailing, and when you need to come back. And when Lamar and this Ravens offense has had those reps, it hasn't been great. Against Kansas City, the 2 drives in the fourth quarter while you're trailing, one of them went 13 plays, 56 yards, and a field goal. The other one, the final drive of the game, 11 plays, 77 yards, nothing out of it. And then against Las Vegas, you had 2 drives when you're trailing in the fourth quarter. One of them went 3 plays, -6 yards, and a punt. And the other one, 5 plays for 41 yards, and nothing happened. And then yesterday, you're trailing for 3 drives in the fourth quarter. The first one, 10 plays, 92 yards, and a touchdown to Charlie Kolar. Oh, excuse me, that should be Isaiah Likely. That's on me. And then 11 plays, 70 yards, and a touchdown. This one to Charlie Kolar. And then the last one, 8 plays, 34 yards, and a field goal. So when you were down, and when you were down late, this offense was able to do something it hadn't been able to do all year long. And I think that's fantastic. And I think that is one of the biggest things that happened in yesterday's game that I'm taking away from it. Well, guys, I got 3 more takeaways, and I'm so excited to get to them. But before we do, I got to give a shout-out to today's sponsor, and that is Game Time. Guys, if you wish you were in attendance for yesterday's game just like I do, well, let's make a change. Let's be in attendance for this week's game, and you should get your tickets by using Game Time. Game Time is the place to go for the best seats at the lowest prices guaranteed. It's the only place I go when I'm trying to get tickets to any college football or NFL game. Game Time has a new feature. It's called Game Time Picks, and that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. The tool highlights the best deals, including great and amazing deals, which are the highest value seats at the time. For some events, Game Time Picks also identifies a super deal, which is the best seat value in the venue. Guys, the Ravens are back in the bank this week, playing the Commanders. Going to be an offensive showdown, and if you want to be there for it, if you want to go to the game, you got to use the Game Time app. They got last-minute tickets and flash deals. You get to see the views from receipts, and they always have that lowest price guarantee. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. My third takeaway, and I'm going to go away from the positivity train on this one, unfortunately, but I think it's time that we realize that this defense, and specifically this pass defense, is a problem. If you look at where they are ranking in the NFL, in yards per game, and all these statistics, it's almost dead last. Yards per game, 280.2 pass yards per game, 31st in the NFL. Yards per pass, 6.9, 27th in the NFL. Pass percentage, so the amount of times, the percentage of times that teams are passing on you, 31st, because they can do whatever they want, so why wouldn't they pass the ball? Yards after a catch, and this is a big one, 726. That's 31st in the NFL. And then yards after catch over expected, so meaning the amount of yards that teams were able to get over what they should have been able to get, is 31st in the NFL as well. And there's a lot of things to point to when you talk about this, but there's a guy in particular I think we should talk about because it might be time to make a change, and that's Marcus Williams. Okay, he has had an atrocious start to this 2024 season. It seems like any time a team completes a big pass down the sideline or there's a lot of yards after catch, you look and there's Marcus Williams right next to it. His passer rating allowed so far this year is 130.6. The yards he's had allowed in 2024, 193. And that compares to 2012 or to 212 in 2024 in all of last year. Now, no, he didn't play every game in last year, but through 5 games, he almost has as many as he allowed all of last year. His defensive grade is a 43.2 overall for the entire season, and his coverage grade for the entire season is a 42.9. Something needs to change there. Now, I don't know if you bring in Bo Braid, if you bring up Sanusi Kane, you got to fix it. You got to do something different Because what you're trotting out there in Marcus Williams isn't working, okay? It's not working. But some weird stat, okay? And this is interesting. And this is why partly I still have hope in this secondary. Because it's not like they're getting torched by these receivers, right? It's just I think they're struggling with tackling, and I think receivers are able to find spots in zones. But the Ravens rank first in the NFL in average target separation with only 2.9 yards. That means by the time the quarterback throws the ball across the entire NFL, Ravens DBs are closer to that receiver than any other team, okay? Than any other team. And so that's kind of what gives me to say, okay, it's been bad, but I think it's fixable. Because you got the guys there. Either receivers are making incredible catches, quarterbacks are making phenomenal throws, or the receivers are just being a little bit more aggressive, and guys like Brandon Stevens, he's had trouble turning his head and making plays on the ball. But for the most part, your guys are in good coverage. And I think through 5 weeks, that's something that matters. So I mentioned it already. I said it might be time to give Bo Braid a chance in this defense. He was phenomenal in the preseason. We all loved him, was so happy that an undrafted rookie made this roster. So is it time to give him a chance? Do you want to see Bo Braid in the starting lineup? And maybe not the starting lineup, but just more in the rotation. If you want to, type Y for yes. And if you don't think that's the right call, type in for no. List number 4 of my 5 takeaways. I think we got the best tight end room in the NFL. I really do. And I thought this going into the season because of Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews. Then I really thought it after week 1. But man, Charlie Kolar yesterday was phenomenal. Led the tight end room in yards, 3 receptions, 64 yards, 1 touchdown. Lamar hit him on a beautiful little go route. Mark Andrews, finally, his little coming out party of the season, 4 receptions, 55 yards on 5 targets. And then Isaiah Likely. Not a lot in the yardage game, but man, 2 touchdowns on 3 receptions with 13 yards as well. This group is really good. And I think what makes me most excited about them is they make me feel a little bit better about this wide receiver room, okay? I came into this season saying, I don't love it, right? Thought Zay Flowers, he's a dog. Rashad Bateman and Nelson Aguilar, to me, I didn't think were the best wide receiver 2s or 3s in the National Football League. And so I kind of came into this season and into the offseason saying, okay, we might need to make a move at receiver. Well, when you got the tight end room that the Ravens do, when you run the ball like the Ravens can with both your running back and your quarterback, I don't think it's necessarily a need to get another wide receiver in here. This tight end room makes me feel good about that wide receiver room because you got 3 tight ends who can catch the ball. And you also got 3 tight ends who can block as well. And that takes me to the 5th takeaway. The guys who block better than anybody. And that's the O-line. They performed yet again. Against Cincinnati, this team dropped back 47 times, 6th most in the NFL. They only allowed 1 sack. The Cincinnati Bengals blitzed 42.6% of the time. That's 4th in the NFL. And yet, Lamar Jackson's time to throw was 3.31 seconds. That's 3rd across the NFL. So they faced the 4th most blitzes, yet he had the 3rd most time to throw. And at the end of the day, you got to ask the question, are they perfect? No, they're not, right? He was under pressure a decent bit, but that's kind of what happens when teams blitz a lot. But I'm impressed. I'm really impressed. I came into this year, and I think we all did, especially after those first 2 games, everybody said, it was like the sky was falling, right? This offensive line can't get it done. We need to make some changes. Then everybody realizes no one deals offensive linemen in the middle of the season. Do you know why? Because they are hot commodities. So no one wants to get rid of them. But the way that they've played these last 3 games, and the way not only they run blocked in the last 2, but they showed up in the pass blocking yesterday against Cincinnati in a 4th quarter where the Bengals knew you're passing the football because you don't have time on the clock to run it. They performed very well. They did exactly what they needed to do. So they were my biggest surprise through 5 games. I want to know, who's your biggest surprise through 5 games? Maybe it's still Isaiah Likely. Maybe it's Charlie Kolar from his performance yesterday. I don't know. I have a feeling it's going to be the offensive line just like me, but you let me know down below. Thanks so much for tuning in. It was a bit of a longer show, but man, we just had so much to talk about. Thanks so much for watching. I'm your host, Joey Petersen. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys tomorrow.